always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany being on the road again. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. This was from the Sanskrit. Although I conquer all the earth, yet for me there is only one city. In that city, there is for me only one house. And in that house, one room only. And in that room, a bed. And one woman sleeps there, the shining joy and jewel of all my kingdom. This hour, on the road again, away from Lovers and Other Strangers, from iTunes and CHFI.com. Robert Louis Stevenson wrote, "For my part, I travel, not to go anywhere, but to go. I travel for travel's sake. The great affair is to move." In the late 20th century, we became a society on the move. With the advent of cross-country train travel, transcontinental and now transglobal flight, the world has become a much smaller place. Within a few short hours, we can outrun winter and follow the sun to where summer goes to hibernate. Within a day, we can wake up on the other side of the world. But most of the day-to-day travel is done by business people whose clients are scattered around the world. The internet has opened up world markets and brought potential customers right to your PC and homepage. But there are still many of us who must physically get on a plane to service business contacts and to return with signed contracts. There was a television commercial sometime back that featured business passengers aboard an aircraft dreaming about the family life that waited for them upon their return. But Robert Louis Stevenson also said, to travel hopefully is a better thing than to arrive. There are some people who just love to travel. Do you remember the film Airport and the old woman who liked to sneak on board flights on a whim? In a changed world since 9/11, thankfully, something like that will never happen again. There are as many reasons for travel as there are people who book flights and buy train and bus tickets. We'll follow a few of them this hour, in search of or trying to flee from Lovers and Other Strangers. From iTunes and CHFI.com. Paul Young, and Every Time You Go Away. Gladys Knight, and Neither One of Us. And Hall & Oates on a Las Vegas turnaround, a song for all the flight attendants who listen on their iPods and MP3 players. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Keats, in a letter, said, "I can scarcely bid you goodbye, even in a letter. I always made an awkward bow." Keats wasn't the only one to feel that he made an awkward bow. There are very few among us who can say farewell and goodbye with anything that resembles grace and style. We just don't leave one another gracefully. Whether it's only till morning, till we meet again, or to meet never again, our partings are generally emotional, to say the least. Tearful, angry, noisy, filled with regret for words said, also for words unsaid. We welcome our visitors with open arms, but the time comes when those same visitors will have to leave, and we're not so eager to let them go as we were to welcome them into our homes. At airports and train stations, there are not so many smiles at the departures terminal as there are at arrivals. The real test of your mettle, however, comes when you're saying goodbye for good, when you plan never to return. Very few people can just walk away without feeling some sort of remorse or regret for what was, and maybe for what might have been. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Chicago, If You Leave Me Now, and Phil Collins, and Can't Stop Loving You. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This program can be heard anywhere in the world. And if you're on business right now, settling into your hotel room, or visiting someone far from home, maybe the show can act as a conduit for your warm thoughts to somehow make it back to loved ones left behind. And then there are those who have no reason to pack their bags, even if someone is afraid they might. This is an excerpt from a poem by writer Leonard Cohen called Owning Everything, published by McClelland and Stewart. And I quote, "You worry that I will leave you. I will not leave you. Only strangers travel. Owning everything, I have nowhere to go." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Lonestar and I'm Already There, and John Legend with Ordinary People. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Used to be a time when the only way to travel the world was by ocean liner. The greatest number in steerage, of course. Today, liners are mostly for vacationers. There is no steerage compartment in the modern liners that ply the Caribbean. If one wants that experience, it's simply a matter of booking passage on a freighter. There are still some crossing the oceans of the world to final points of call. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, and Looking Glass with Brandy. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Whatever the reason for our travels, we come back to a changed world. I think of Castaway starring Tom Hanks. He believed she would always wait for his return. In fact, it was the one thought that kept him going. But some journeys are just too long, no matter how hard we struggle to return. This is called Years From Now by Kim Sobol. Should you come to me years from now, I shall say, I have forgotten. Should you scold me, I shall say, after much longing, I have forgotten. Should you persist in scolding me, I shall say, for lack of trust, I have forgotten. Not yesterday, not today, but years from now, I shall say, I have forgotten. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.